Welcome back to the 2 Months podcast presented by BioStill and powered by GoGo Sports. Tonight I have Phil Stockley with me. Phil, how's it going?
Going pretty good. It's those the dog days of summer now, and I think what are we on the downswing of summer now? Getting into August here, so just enjoying it while I can.
Yeah, and the team that employs our guest here, the Edmonton Oilers, made some big news, and our guest tonight from the Edmonton Oilers and Rogers Sportsnet. You can find him on Rogers Sportsnet during the season and during the Oilers regional coverage. We like to welcome back to the 2 Months podcast, Bob Stauffer. Stauf, how's it going?
Josh, Phil, good. Interesting times. It was a good day today for the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, let's jump into that. Obviously, you saved us a day here, and the Oilers did or whatever.
I got lucky. I got lucky.
Yeah, exactly. Not oftentimes you get that, but some great news, obviously, with the hiring of Jeff Jackson and one of the biggest agents, or if not the biggest agent in the industry. And I know you're very close to a lot of agents, and Jerry Johansson's one of them. But and Jerry had some great words to say about the hire of Jeff Jackson. But thoughts on this hire for the Oilers and what it means for the foreseeable future.
Well, it's for me. It's I don't know if they could have hired a better guy. Like that. I mean, when you think about it, it's a combination of factors. Okay, he played in the NHL, so he checks that box. Went to law school after he's done playing, so he's educated. Checks that box. He worked for the Maple Leafs for 4 years in a couple different roles and climbed to assistant general manager and was on the development side and ran the farm team. So he checks that box. He's run a top flight agency for a number of years. He had number one picks in back-to-back years in Ekblad and obviously Connor McDavid, who, oh, by the way, is the most important player in the game, and he plays for the Edmonton Oilers. So checks that box. His agency did an exceptional job, in my opinion, bringing along players in the second round, specifically in 2016. Like you look at DeBrincat and Kyrou, Sam Gagne's dad, Dave Gagne, works with Jeff. They had best of practices on development and sports science. He's at the right age. Like you know what, guys? I knew it was a good day when I saw some of the harshest critics of the team, guys that often criticize what the Oilers have done, in spite of the fact that Edmonton's got the eighth best record in the league over the last 4 years. When I saw the harshest critics of the team, the real hard-nosed hockey junkies that like to question everything, and they're like, oh my God, this is a really good hire. So I think today was a good day.
Yeah. How much, one of the things that stood out to me when I was listening to the press conference, I actually drove by the arena and saw you and Cam doing your hit from the Hall of Fame room today. And
you didn't wave or honk?
I was going to, but Mooner was in a take, and I just I'm not going to be that guy. So I was gonna pull over the Lincoln Navigator and jump out and bang up.
You drive a Lincoln Navigator?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a bad car, but because my mom chirped me. She laughed at me and she goes, "Where's the family that we don't know about?" But anyways,
or are you working?
I got a family and I got a two door.
That's why you have a Lincoln Navigators. You're working for one of those sort of families that does some very unique work in refuse collection and those sort of things. You know what I'm saying, Josh?
Yeah, exactly. No, I've always liked the vehicle. So when I had the opportunity to go buy one, I said I'm going to go get one. So yeah.
All right, there you go.
It cost me $300 to get the thing detailed the other day because taking that thing to Fort McMurray and back is not the greatest thing. But one of the great things that I took from the press conference today, and I think the organization as a whole has a lot of great qualities. Any amenity that the Oilers need, they have. And from the barbershop inside the arena to like our buddy Mo,
which nobody knows about, but now they do.
Yeah, exactly. So we got our buddy Mo from Shatified in there. But one of the things to get to my take is Paul Coffey and his importance to this organization, and the fact that he's the one that maybe him and a few others went out of the box and thought of bringing in Jeff Jackson. And what is the important role that Paul Coffey has? Because it seems like since he's kind of joined the organization again, along with what Ken's done, and you touched on it today, that this is the best. They're the best eighth. They have the best record, in the NHL out of the top 10 teams, and they're in that eighth seed. But the conversation that you would have with maybe a Paul Coffey on the road. And
well, I mean, Paul's around. Jeff was pretty specific today, talking about the fact that Paul was involved and assisting in communicating the opportunity that was in Edmonton. Paul is an advisor. Paul could be very persuasive. Ironically enough, he was I think he still is in the car business in Toronto. Paul didn't have to sell himself on the ice because he was goddamn brilliant. Let's face it. I mean, he was, argue next to Bobby Orr, maybe the most exciting defenseman to ever play the game.
Correct.
But he knows how to sell, and obviously, I think the Oilers have a good story to sell, right? Like, this team's close. I think anybody that works around the team realizes maybe there was a little bit of a missed opportunity this year. But I think people also realize as long as Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are here, the Oilers are in their window. And that relationship that Jeff has, yes, it helps with McDavid, but I got to tell you that he represents, like, Connor Brown ended up in Edmonton as well. So to me, it's been a really interesting summer because the only place that Connor and Leon, I think, can play together is in Edmonton. The organization that's going to have the cap space to get him re-signed is Edmonton.
Yeah.
And the Connor Brown commitment to the Oilers when he had 12 to 14 different options, to me, that was a harbinger of things to come. Like, obviously, Connor McDavid is part of that equation. And then they got a little bit of a break, in my opinion. Well, not a break, but and maybe it's a byproduct of playing LA the last 2 years in the playoffs. But I thought of all the places that maybe Octagon would look at placing Leon Draisaitl, I thought LA made sense.
See, Boston makes sense for me for that one. And I heard you talk about that 2 days ago with Frank. But go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, well, with the Kings, I mean, because he's got a relationship. Leon has a relationship with Kopitar. Octagon has a presence in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Have a couple agents there. But then the Kings went out, they signed Dubois, traded for and signed Dubois, and then they re-signed Kopitar, and now that's $16 million that isn't there to go get a star center from another team. So, and the Oilers have played LA 2 years in the playoffs and developed a bit of a rivalry. So, look, I think it's been a good summer for the Oilers, and I think it was culminated today with Jeff Jackson being the right guy. I'm not going to speak to, because I don't 100% know with Paul. I got an idea with Paul. I don't see how having a guy like Paul helping the organization out hurts. He's got a lot of charisma, and he'll surprise you sometimes too. Like, he hooked us up with Bill Burr when we were in Vegas and got a meet and greet, and that was totally unexpected. Like, he does stuff like that because he thinks of other people. That's just a quick little side note.
Yeah. Phil, toss the puck over to you here.
So a couple days ago, Ryan McLeod avoids arbitration, signs a 2-year, $4.2 million contract. What do you think of that signing? What do you think of that kind of money for Ryan McLeod?
Phil, he was kind of almost giddy when he was on with me a couple days ago. I think that Bouchard and McLeod know they're part of a secondary wave of the future. By the way, what did you think today of Jeff Jackson? Did you see that coming at all? With Jeff Jackson with leave?
I didn't see it, but like I was saying to Phil, the only way I kind of see is because obviously, like I built up a nice little relationship, and he's been on with us 5 times, and that's Elaine Waugh. And Elaine's names has come up in executive roles throughout the last few years as a general manager. And I feel like maybe this is a trend. I didn't see that coming at all. I'll be honest. I didn't see it coming. I think it's a brilliant hire because, like, all the boxes that it checks. And the only thing I would say, like, I said this to Phil before we jumped, before, we were talking earlier today, and he's like, you're going to get beat up if you say this, but it's more or less like, it's not trying to slander the hire in any way. The hire is a great hire, but like, Spector asked it today is like cup or bust, because that's what Leon said at the end of the day. But and I'm a Leaf guy, so we sit here August 3rd. I'm surprised Austin Matthews and it's not extended. Really surprised, to be honest. But if the Oilers don't win a cup in the next 3 years, does this hire still make it foreseeable to see Connor throughout his whole career in Edmonton? I don't know. Like, I don't know the answer to that question. They have to win a do they have to win a cup in the next 3 years for him to say I'm signing another 8-year deal?
They're in the championship window as long as those two guys are here. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and I
Like,
and I, would, yeah.
I don't think anybody has that answer. Like, what happens if they win 56, 60, and 53 wins in the next 3 years?
Yeah,
and they lose in the final once, in the conference final once, and get upset once. I don't know in the sequence of that. Like, what if you lose in the Stanley Cup final in the third year? Well, you're thinking for sure he resigns at that point.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, like
So I don't know if we, you know what, I got to tell you, I'm pretty bullish that they're going to find a way to win here in the next couple of years. I really genuinely believe that.
I would
think
be
Campbell's going to bounce
don't.
back. I think Skinner's got a chance to be a legit number one. I believe Ekholm's going to work with Broberg and get the most out of him this year. They got Bouchard and McLeod that are getting transitioned into better roles. They're getting breaks on players wanting to come here for dirt cheap base bonus contracts. But I'm also the eternal optimist. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, I wouldn't, for the record, I wouldn't worry about Matthews not being signed yet. I'm sure Brad Treliving's going to get him signed.
And I would hope so too. But August 3rd, I gotta be I'm a bit surprised. I'm not surprised Nylander hasn't signed because there seems to probably be a big of a gap there. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. But the only reason I say it because I said on this podcast several times, if Austin Matthews isn't signed by July 1st, then he's not a Leaf. Like for the long term, and all that because. It's like we had you on last time, and it was the same thing. I don't get why it's with this guy. It's every single time. It's like, no, I'm going 5 years, and then next time I'm going 3 years, and I don't know. It's a little frustrating as a fan.
Do you know who Walter Alston is?
What's that?
Do you know who Walter Alston is?
No, sorry.
He's a former manager of the LA Dodgers. He did 23 one-year contracts.
Okay.
He only signed 1-year contract. He would have driven you nuts. He would have had you free.
Probably would if I was a Dodger fan, but
he was pretty good if he managed for 23 seasons. He must have done a pretty good job.
100%, yeah. And you go back and you talk to the guys, the Bennings and the Luciches and the guys that have been on with us and the guys that know this, know Connor better than anyone. And it's and like anyone that knows Milan Lucic, this guy's a student of the game and he loves the game a lot. History shows that Connor's going to win. I can't go on from episode 187 to where we are now and just be like, that's what I say because that's my argument. It's like these guys win and they win champion. Not only do they win in the markets they get drafted in. So I do see it happening in the next 3 years. I'd be surprised if it doesn't. But my point is, I think the Oilers were a better team in Game 6 against Vegas than they are right now. So I don't know where you're taking.
Oh, that's a fair. What do you think, Phil?
I agree with Bosco. I do think they need to. The thing is like so. Whenever you come on, like you're honestly a fan favorite on the Too Much podcast. So I always throw it out there. What do you got for Bob? Me. What?
Hey, Shaddy from Shadowfight says all the time. He's like, I don't get it. Stauffer gets more views, more plays than an actual NHL player. It happens.
You do.
The data backs it up, Stauffer. You have a following, and Shaddy says it all the time. So go ahead.
I think, and you can probably like you talk to Oiler fans every day, but it was like an overwhelming. Everybody I asked is like, I think there's like just like such a nervousness about the goaltending position and like how important the goaltending position is. So you just said Stuart Skinner can be a number one. You think Campbell's going to have a bounce back season. So you might have just answered that question, but maybe you want to elaborate a little more on that. Maybe you want to calm some people down here because that's the question I get every day. What's going on in net with the Oilers? Okay.
Well, to begin with, just to evaluate what Josh said, aka Bosco, you could certainly make an argument the forwards aren't as good as they were last year. Brown basically replaces Yamamoto. That's probably an upgrade. Costin's gone. He provided some toughness, though. Yeah, didn't have great analytics, and he went on a heater. But I think they're going to miss him a little bit. Okay. I didn't mind what Costin brought, and I think Bukestad was pretty good as a fourth line center. He maybe played a little too high at times in the series against Vegas.
Yeah,
but they didn't play Holloway. And I actually think Holloway has a higher ceiling than all those guys. It's the same defense. The only difference is I think you're going to see Broberg get more minutes and Desharnais maybe less. Time will tell in that regard. And then you've got a situation where in goal, can Campbell be much worse than he was last year?
It's like a similar situation to Huberdeau in Calgary, right? Can he be worse?
I don't think
so.
I think Campbell's going to be like Campbell had a tough. Sometimes it takes guys a year to get transitioned in, and I think Jack's going to have a better year. I don't know if Skinner's going to be 9-14 in the regular season again, but I think Campbell's going to be a lot better than he was.
I think Campbell gets to like. For some reason I think Campbell gets to like the 9-14 to 9-20 range because I can't not get over the moment of what he went through in that game against LA when he came in. I know it didn't look pretty, but he got the win. He
fought like hell.
100%.
You guys, that's life. Like 100%. Here's what happened with McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah.
They got, in my opinion, unfairly questioned after Edmonton lost to Chicago. I got in Specs grill about this where Sean was hammering those guys. Oh, you're never going to win with these guys. Connor had 9 points in 4 games and was a plus player. Leon
not good
Leon
enough.
Had
come on.
Like you're blaming sometimes you got to identify the real source of a lack of achievement, and it's not when a player's got 9 points in 4 games.
No.
Oh, but he lost the faceoff. I'm like, the Chicago Blackhawks scored 6 deflection goals. The Oilers had 2 Swedish defensemen that I don't think really wanted to come back for that. But like, there were a lot of guys. Like, COVID screwed up a lot of people around the league. Not everybody wanted to play. No. Some guys opted out. Mike Green never came back to the team. He was supposed to provide a little bit of depth to Edmonton that year, and we had people infer and like
it was unjustified. The heat went back. It's the same thing that Darnell Nurse said with Luke Gazdic the other day. It's like one bad goal against, it's all Darnell's fault, and because the traffic is backed up on Stony Plain Road, that's his fault too.
Well, I mean, I think the last 2 years nobody can debate if Connor and Leon are dug in. And I think that difference between Edmonton and Toronto is Connor and Leon are dug in, and I'm not convinced Matthews and Marner are there yet.
No.
Okay?
Yeah.
I don't think, Connor and Leon have dragged the Oilers into 5 playoff series. The Leafs got to 3, and they beat Tampa. And you know what? They probably should have beat Tampa a year ago, and they probably shouldn't have beat Tampa this year. Like the 3 games they won in Tampa in overtime, they should have probably lost all 3 games.
100% they should have. They fell behind in every single game pretty much.
And they were outplayed significantly. So, but I think the one thing that bodes well for Edmonton is Connor and Leon are all in. They've got way greater support with Nugent Hopkins, Hyman, and Evander Kane. Now they have Brown. They've got
Brown could be a 30-30 guy, right? So
who's that?
Connor Brown could be a 30-30 guy, 30 goals.
Yeah, 30. I think he'll be like 22, 23, 51, 52. As the 6th highest scoring forward on the team, that's going to be pretty good. They're going to have really good forwards. I think the defense will be way better than 17th in the league. And oh, by the way, they've got the most ridiculous power play we've ever seen. And it was actually better with Bouchard.
And they got one of the best head coaches in the game too.
He's today's coach.
He's what you draw up as the modern day today's coach, 100%. So I agree.
So
yeah.
What do you think happens with Bouchard here, Bob?
2 years, 3.8 to 3.95 in that range.
Yeah, is he going to be at camp?
Oh, all day. I'd be surprised if it's not. I'd be surprised if it's not done. What's today? Today's the 3rd. I'd be surprised if it's not done by August the 15th.
Yeah.
There you go, guys. Calm down, everybody.
He wants to be part of the equation. Yeah. Like I could now in fair, like I know that at times that agency was a little bit frustrated, more so with Tippett than Jay with Bouchard. Let's not forget Bouchard's flipped the switch last year or 2 years ago when he got to play with Keith, and then this year when he played with when Ekholm came in. Now I do foresee a scenario where we'll start the season and you'll see Bouchard possibly with Darnell Nurse. Yeah. And then you'll see Broberg with Ekholm, with Broberg on the right side, and then you'll see Kulak and Ceci. And what they'll do is they'll even the minutes out. So maybe Darnell only plays 22 and a half, 23. And then maybe Ekholm plays 20, and maybe Kulak plays 17, and Bouch plays 20, 21. And Broberg goes from 12 and a half, 13 to 15, 16, and CC plays 18 instead of 20. That's what I see happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they're a good team. They're probably, as Phil likes to say, that the trend is Vegas 1 year, Flames the next year for winning the division title. But I think the Oilers.
It's our year next year, bud. It's our year again next year.
Yeah. He's a big Flames fan, so
let's get this right. I'm on a podcast calling the 2 Months Podcast. One guy's a Leafs fan and one guy's a Flames fan.
Hey man, I'm more.
And then we got the Oilers guy. We're giving the Oilers their flowers here, buddy. Don't worry. Like I know where I stand. Okay.
By the way, the Calgary Flames had more points than the Florida Panthers last season.
Yeah. Luch reminded us.
Thanks for the reminder, Bob.
Yeah,
it's all good. How do you think Daryl Sutter feels?
Yeah. Speaking of him, what's your thoughts on Sutter? Luch was just on the Spit and Chicklets podcast, and Ryan Whitney. Obviously, you've been on that podcast too. You know Ryan Whitney pretty well, but
that was considered the worst podcast ever. The day I was on that podcast,
I highly doubt that.
Who the hell's the guy from Edmonton? Who is the fat guy from Edmonton that looks like Jerry Krause?
You have a following stuff, but one of the I know you were just with Daryl the other day there, like maybe 2-3 weeks ago.
Daryl Sutter, yes,
Daryl Sutter. Your thoughts on kind of, we probably don't see him again in the NHL, but I guess this comment that Tyler Toffoli made on Spit and Chicklets that hasn't been published yet, but they talked about it in the interview with Luch, is that it would be 0-0. They go out into the intermission and 0-0, and Sutter would look at Vladar and say, "Vladar, you ready? You're going up soon." Was obviously he's a mind guy or whatever. I don't know, Sutter, the Sutter family. My family deals with them in the farming industry. Cam Moon helped us get Brent Sutter on our podcast twice. Amazing family. But do you think the dismissal of him was justified in Calgary, or do you think maybe it was kind of?
I understand why the Flames made the decision that they did. Okay, but I do think Daryl Sutter's been coaching since he was 31.
Yeah.
Like that's 37 years in the National Hockey League. The guy's been, and he hasn't coached continuously. So, I think history will look back and say the man won 2 Stanley Cups in LA. It wasn't the sexiest style, but it was effective. Contrary to what a lot of people think, he was cutting edge from an analytics perspective. They were Corsi gods in 2012 and 2014. They had the puck the entire game. You couldn't get the puck off of them. Yeah. They had pretty good teams. They had underrated offenses, kind of like New Jersey had an underrated offense in the early 2000s. I think Daryl's a pretty good coach, but he's old school. And, it's supposed to be a meritocracy, and you're supposed to earn things.
Yeah.
And I think he got a little frustrated. Was he caught in a time warp? I don't know about that. I think, Josh, sometimes in life, you'll hear, well, that guy's not a good guy. I worked with that guy in that situation. And then the guy goes to another company and they love him. Or a guy goes to another team and they love him. Now, I was a guy that nobody really loved anywhere I went, right? So I'm just kidding. But seriously, man, I think you have to appreciate the body of work that Daryl had. At the end of the day, he won a couple Stanley Cups. He won a Coach of the Year, and he's not hurting that bad. As I recall, he still had 2 years left in his deal, and he was well compensated not to be coaching the Calgary Flames over the next couple seasons.
Yeah. Bill, do you have any Flame stuff before we kind of move on to a few other things?
No, I think that kind of sums it up for
is that fair?
Mike. Yeah, I agree, and like you said, I don't think he's complaining to sit on the farm and make that
he's not complaining. I can tell you that, because when I talked to him, I didn't get the sense that there was any regret, and I didn't get the sense that he volunteered to show up at the event. It's like 30 minutes away from Viking to Irma, which is where Carson Sousa is from. So I know it was quite interesting having Jerry Johansson, Daryl Sutter, and myself on the panel. So, just because they have different perspectives on things, and I think that's great. I think we're allowed to have different views on life.
Yeah.
For sure.
Any PTOs you expect the Oilers to make?
I think there's going to be a couple PTOs.
Yeah. Is there
maybe a surprise? Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any names, or do you care to?
No,
share
I'm not going to give you a name, but I could see it. A guy you both know.
Okay.
But this player has not played for Toronto, nor has he played for Calgary. But it's a player you know.
Okay.
All right.
Think about what Edmonton needs. Okay. They probably need a right shot center. Now they do have, a situation where they have Lane Peterson, who in a perfect world is Edmonton's first call up from the minors, but he's a right shot option. Derek Ryan's probably a right wing at this stage in his career. We'll see. So maybe they might have to trade for a PTO for a right shot center at some point. I think invariably at some stage during the year, their fourth line center will be a right shot. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. And that's a PTO, you think? Or
to start, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if they sign another player after they get Bouchard done.
Yeah, they're going to be tight against the cap. It's kind of
they can afford one more. So I don't have Peterson on the team. Okay. So I'm assuming Bouchard again is like 3.8 to 3.95. That basically gives them about $1 million for one more player. But maybe you bring in a couple guys on a PTO and see if a guy can play his way onto the roster.
What about Mark Pesek, a guy like him? Do you think? Because Petrovic has a deal with Dallas, so that's one guy.
Yeah, no, and the Oilers ended up signing the other defenseman from Dallas, Benjamin Gleason.
Yeah.
Right. So Petrovic agreed to Dallas. He never came close to becoming a free agent.
Yeah.
Mark Pesek makes sense because he can play forward or defense. That might be an intriguing guy to have in your organization.
Yeah. And he's a local.
Remember that night? Hey, you will remember this, Josh. He got a hat trick against your beloved Toronto Maple Leafs one night.
He did. I remember that.
Remember after the third goal, he was laughing because he was playing forward.
Almost broke the TV stuff. It reminded me here. I just got that TV too around that time. So
that's all right. You got an Escalade, so you can get yourself
a Navigator.
A Navigator. Sorry, I like a Navigator, not an Escalade.
Yeah.
I have a Ford. Does that surprise you? Because Ford is the official vehicle partner of the Edmonton Oilers.
Yes.
Here we go. Bob's throwing out free ads here, eh?
The friends where is it? Brentridge Ford?
Brentridge Ford out of Wetaskiwin. Cars cost less than Wetaskiwin. You can go and see Uncle Milt, Rich, Johnny, and the gang. They'll look after you in Wetaskiwin. Trust
they
you.
Will for sure. Let's do our NHL report real quick. Just a few here, sponsored by Sheena Boychuk. Thoughts on kind of the what we've been seeing with the arbitrators, Swayman and kind of those guys there in that aspect. Is there any your surprises on any of those ones? And Kurashev, do you think some of those numbers drew up numbers for other players?
Well, Kurashev had played for 3 years. McLeod had only played for 2. The Frederick number at 2.3. I think the Oilers maybe got $100,000 break because I think if it had gone to Arbit, it would have been 2.2 or 2.3 if the arbitrator decided on McLeod. I think they've been fair so far, and I think you want to avoid it because unfortunately, what happens in those situations is invariably you have to analytically break the player down that you're negotiating against, and that's just awful. Yeah. Like it's just a bad so I think but it serves its purpose. It suits its purpose. So, and to be honest, no, there's not a lot of big surprises so far.
Yeah. Mike Babcock says today he absolutely made mistakes during his Leafs tenure. I know Dan Baker.
What did he say? Sorry.
So he did an article today, and he said he absolutely made, quote unquote, as Babcock admits, absolutely made mistakes during Leafs tenure. So he talked. He was on actually Sportsnet 590. One of the questions asked was, "Do you think you did anything wrong?" He goes, "Absolutely." So that's kind of the article. Yeah, he was on with them today. What do you think? what he can learn. Obviously, some of the things here in the article is the Mitch Marner handling, Franzen handling, Chelios handling, and then obviously the Jason Spezza one. And then he's actually really looking forward to his relationship with Zach Werenski here, and you know,
I think I think smart people evolve and grow in times.
And I know you dealt with them.
Phil,
like,
how
you know,
old are you now,
Dan
Phil?
Baker at Pub 1905 is
37.
Yeah.
You're 37. And Josh, how old are you?
39.
I'm in my 50s, boys, and I make dumb mistakes every single day of my life.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd done things differently. In Mike's case, I watched Mike win a national championship with Lethbridge in 1994. They don't even have a hockey program anymore. It was one of the greatest coaching performances of all time. At that time, he galvanized his players and rallied them around him. Obviously, at the end of his Maple Leafs tenure, the antithesis of that was happening.
Yeah.
Smart people grow and evolve. They get better. And, asking Mitch Marner to evaluate players on the team, that sort of stuff you can't. All I'm gonna say is if people think Mike Babcock was a hard ass, they should have seen what guys did in the 70s and the early 80s.
Yeah.
It's like come on, man. Like the mind games that went on and the expectation. I've never tied a fight, and that's part of the reason why I wasn't good enough to play in the Western Hockey League. But I'm telling you, guys knew they had to go, and there was no, you don't get to decide. You're just gonna do it. And sometimes guys were scared. You know what? Thinking that they might get killed. Like not every guy can fight like Milan Lucic. So in Bab's case, I'm not surprised that there's a conciliatory appreciation for the fact that he screwed up. Made some mistakes. We all make mistakes. And frankly, I got to tell you, I just hope Mike can have some success in Columbus, because that's been a place where not a lot of guys have had success.
Yeah, I'll probably take some heat on this because obviously Commodore's been on with us, but I actually think Mike Babcock back in the NHL is a good thing. So I hope.
Well, Mike Commodore is entitled to his opinion. He is. He played for Mike Babcock. I saw a different type of Mike Babcock in the late 80s and the early 90s.
Yeah.
And so now I'm saying that I've had animated discussions with Mike before, as late as 2018. But lots of people don't agree with everything I say either. So again, Mike Commodore is allowed to have those negative feelings that he's got.
Yeah. Phil, you got some fun ones here to close out the pod. I'll throw it to you to close out.
Well, first, I was going to ask, a name that I was just thinking about, like a guy like Matt Dumba, still not signed. Where do you think he ends up? Like where would be a good fit for that guy? He's still young too, right? Like 29 years old.
How about that draft in 2012? You recall who the number one pick was?
It was Yakupov.
2009.
Yakupov. 2012. Yakupov.
12, right?
Yeah, Yakupov went number one. Who went number two?
Is it Murray?
Murray. Yes, good job, Ryan Murray.
Yeah, sorry, Murray.
Yeah. The guy that went number three recently had an off ice challenge.
Yeah.
AK4 Alex Galchenyuk. The Oilers traded 2 picks to go get the guy that went number 4 back in 2015. But this guy went number 4 in 2012, won a Memorial Cup with the Oil Kings. Griffin Reinhart.
Yeah.
The guy that went number 5. The guy that went number 5 is the best guy from that draft, I think.
Yeah.
Morgan Riley.
Yeah. Berkey said
he suffered a significant knee injury. Hampus Lindholm went 6th, and Matt Dumba went 7th in that draft year. Now, for a bonus point, you know who went number 8? It's not in the NHL.
Can't remember.
Pouliot. Derek Pouliot went number 8 to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
They drafted him and Mata because that draft was in Pittsburgh. That Yakupov
that's the one where Calgary traded down for Mark Jankowski.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He had a 20-goal season for you guys, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
You know,
Jankowski, filled out he got to be a better player. I think he's been pretty good in Nashville the last couple of years. So
let's just see if he got I could swear he scored it. He had at least one 20-goal year. So, anyways, where were we going here?
Dumba. Where's Dumba headed? Where would he fit in?
You make a valid point. Like, I have no idea. I don't know. Does he end up back in Minnesota?
Well, it doesn't sound
17
like
goals
you
is Jankowski's
Yeah,
career high.
Jankowski 17 and 14 back to back. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like,
He's
I
a
don't know.
he's a decent second pairing right shot defenseman that's got some offensive ability. I have no idea where he's going. I know he's not coming to Edmonton. They have no cap space.
Yeah, I think Calgary doesn't have either, and they're loaded. Like, how cool do you think the Shillington coming back to Calgary? That's just the top four defenseman that just jumps right back into your.
Well, he can really skate. He's got great lateral movement. And I remember Cassie Campbell telling me, like, and Brad Pascal obviously knew Shillington well. And he can really. I mean, that's a big get. That's a big return for the Flames.
Yeah. I know it's coming up here pretty soon, Staff. I got to ask you about it. And you're going to be part of the panel there for the 2 days, the Central Alberta Child Advocacy Center.
Yeah.
We've done our podcast is donated some money and some tickets and whatnot to that charity. And we just had Lanny McDonald on. Any good stories with Lanny and how you're looking forward to it on August 8th and 9th?
Well, I told a joke that you can no longer tell the first year of that tournament, and I used Lanny McDonald, Jamie McCowan, Dave Hunter, and Glenn Sather were the four guys I had at the front. And if you think I was including Glenn Sather in that joke, not a chance. I didn't want to be swimming in cement the next day. So there was no way. Hunts, unfortunately, was going to get it. That's all there was to it. So let's just say Central Alberta, the Oilers, it's about a 70-30 split in terms of the fan base there. And they get behind that event. And Terry Lowen, I actually talked to him tonight. Al Sims, guys like that. Mark Jones from the chair. These guys do an unbelievable job, and they've become huge partners for the Oilers Community Foundation as well. And the event's fun. Red Deer's fun. We're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Phil, you want to close her out here? Take her home?
Give me a hard hit one, Phil.
Well, I got a couple of questions from some fans. So Jeremy, my buddy Jeremy, he wants to know, he said, now with Koskinen gone, who's going to protect Connor McDavid?
Kane and Nurse.
Okay, and then my brother Rob wants to know how's Connor Brown fit into this lineup? Does he play with McDavid right off the bat?
Yes.
All right.
Possibly with Kane on left wing, and then the Oilers would have Nugent Hopkins with Draisaitl and Hyman.
That's a really good top six.
It is. Yes, it's a pretty good top six.
Yeah, for sure.
And I gotta just say, Phil, when it was 2-0 for 3-1 for Calgary in the second period of Game 2, after the Flames won 9-6, did you think the Oilers were gonna not lose another game in the series?
I don't know. I kind of erased it. So
Luch said yes, because he's like, the worst thing in that series. He said this on Spit and Chicklets. He didn't say it on our podcast. I wish he did, but he said the worst thing was to win 9-6 in Game 1, because he's like, we all walked back into that locker room thinking we could run with these guys. We couldn't run with them, and that's the way the whole series played out. He's like, that was the worst thing for us. So
I wasn't sure. Like, I was nervous sitting in the second period of that game. I'm like, oh boy, and then the Oilers just lit it up.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I thought we were in Smith's head, and I thought he was done. So
as it turned out, I think the Oilers were more in Markstrom's head in that series.
Yeah. They always had an answer, right? So
it's all good, Phil.
But anyways,
you can still switch your allegiances, you know that.
No chance. Look at all the attention I get for being a Flames fan. Come on.
Oh, man.
So I'll end on this. This is my last thing, because last time you were on, we talked about the bubblegum Jones soda. So
did you try it?
I did. It's pretty good. I tried it. You got one going right now? Attaboy. Nice.
Hey, Paul Gazzola says you like blue whale stuff. Stop.
Yeah, but the problem is they keep knocking my teeth out. And when you get to my age and you start to lose teeth, they ain't coming back. You know what I'm saying?
They're not. Yeah.
So you made a comment though last time about like you get takeout. What is the best takeout place in Edmonton?
Oh man, that's a tough call. Well, I
Good
can tell
question.
you, I buy my family dinner every Sunday night, and we go to either Ruth's Chris or we go to Yanni's Taverna.
Geez, you're
Okay.
a high roller.
Well, okay, but we also go to Japanese Village as a family. I'm talking takeout. I go to those places.
Okay.
And then I actually got Royal Pizza waiting for me tonight. I'm serious, downstairs, because I ordered late because
Oh.
my son has a thing about not wanting me in the dining room downstairs because he's playing his video games, and I hate it when you do podcasts, Dad. That's he's like, right? Why can't you go out? Why can't you go see one of your stupid friends 8 to 10? Little does he realize I don't actually have any friends.
Yeah, you got lost.
So from Royal Pizza, are you getting pizza?
Of course I'm getting.
What do you get from Royal Pizza? I know.
If the place is called something pizza, you're not ordering a hamburger. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, Bob. I'm getting to know you.
Mediterranean.
Okay, like
Tonight I'm having Texan.
Texan. Oh, you're going with the Brendan Escott one.
There you go. That's what I love right there. A guy who's listening.
Yeah, the Brendan Escott
There you go.
recommendation.
Well, I'll be listening tomorrow, guys, at about 12:10. We'll give the 2 months podcast a plug tomorrow, all right?
Okay, thanks, Staff. Have a good one.
Hey, have a great rest of the summer, fellas. And if you're stuck and can't get anybody better in the fall, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks guys.
Doc.
See you later. Bye.